So CNN tweeted this next short video that you're about to watch, and they did it with this caption. Chris Cillizza, who's this guy, explains why he and CNN forecasters have Senator Kamala Harris at the top of their list of the top 10 people most likely to become the Democratic presidential nominee. Now, Chris Cillizza, I don't know how he has a job. I just don't, because half the time he says really stupid shit that's not true, and then the other half the time he says the most banal, obvious shit you've ever heard. So how does he have a job? I don't know. He has to know somebody who knows somebody. Definitely a nepotism case or something going on here. But here he is. Again, the whole purpose of this clip that you're about to watch is he's explaining why him and the other expert CNN forecasters have Kamala Harris at number 1 to be the Democratic primary winner. Take a look.
How does she stand up? I think it'll double in size at least by in 2 months' time. How does she stand up? Harry Enton and I do rankings every month of the top 10 folks at this moment most likely to become the nominee. We've had Kamala Harris number 1 for the last 2 or 3 months for a lot of what Dana just talked about. Look, if you read that speech or watched it, she is setting up, she is the anti-Trump. Right. He's not mentioned by name in the speech. He's mentioned sort of by reference.
But she does refer to the president.
Right. But in everything, from the fact that she is an Indian American and African American woman, as in her 50s, contrasted to a 70-plus-year-old white male, to her focus on, you know, we need to be strong together. It's not us versus them, talking on everything, healthcare, climate. She talks about the need for the freedom of the press. A lot of candidates will do this who are running on the Democratic side. I thought one other thing that's worth noting in contrast to Trump, or with Trump in mind, she does say truth a lot in there, and we've played that. She also uses the word fight or fighter a lot, and I think you're going to see Kirsten Gillibrand from New York's doing a lot of this, which is the Democratic Party is angry.
Yeah.
They want someone to stand up to Donald Trump in a real way. Yeah. Maybe not Michael Avenatti, but something sort of, you know, near-ish that. So I think tonally you're going to see a lot of willingness to be that fighter.
Okay, what you just said is not connected at all to what we were told it was going to be. The whole purpose of that clip was Chris Cillizza explains why he and CNN forecasters have Kamala Harris at the top of their list of the top 10 people most likely to become the Democratic presidential nominee. You didn't give a single data point. Not one. Not one. So here's what annoys me. What annoys me is how disingenuous they are, because as they are actively trying to shape public opinion on the race, they pretend like us, we're just calling balls and strikes. No, no, no. The only reason I'm saying Kamala Harris is the favorite is because Kamala Harris is the favorite. The fuck? No, that's not true. There's not a single poll where she's number 1. Not a single one. Now, if you want to come up with some sort of highfalutin argument to say that, well, that doesn't matter, but here's why I think she is number 1. Fine, you could do that. But you have to actually make points that lead to that conclusion. You didn't do that at all. Here's what he said. She's the anti-Trump. Okay, but how? Explain what that means exactly. You could argue that every single Democratic candidate is the anti-Trump, simply by virtue of the fact that they're running against Donald Trump for president. They want to be the nominee against Donald Trump for president. Well, her policies are the opposite. Yeah, every Democratic candidate, to one extent or another, is going to be running on the opposite policies of Donald Trump. So that doesn't mean anything. You're just saying words, but there's no meaning attached to it. Oh, she's number 1 because she's the anti-Trump. What? That could apply to all of them. Well, she's Indian American and African American, and so the identity. Color me surprised. CNN is using identity politics. Listen, that's not in and of itself an argument. You're putting it front and center. And I warned you they were going to do this. They were going to make it so that have an establishment-approved candidate that if and when the left criticizes her on policy grounds, they give themselves an out to turn around and go, well, she's a woman of color. Maybe that's the real reason you're criticizing her. Not on the policy stuff, but maybe you just don't like the women of color. That's the second point he makes. Oh, we think that she's a favorite because she's a woman of color. But that's like your opinion, though. Like, none of this is connected to any data. Then he says, this is the most hilarious one. Well, you know, if you'll notice, when she talks, she says we need to be strong together. It's the opposite of Trump. Yeah, if only there was some campaign where, I don't know, maybe their slogan was Stronger Together, and we could see what happened empirically in that campaign when they ran on that message of vague-ass platitudes and cliches. Oh, that's right. We had Hillary Clinton, and she lost. And you're using the fact that Kamala Harris talks in a way that's like Hillary Clinton's old slogans. You're using that as a reason why Kamala Harris is number one. How do you have a job? You suck at your job, Chris Cillizza. Honestly, I could come up with stronger arguments to make Kamala Harris the front runner, even though she's not, but I could feed a more convincing line of bullshit than you could. It's so sad. And then finally he goes, well, she says truth a lot. So what? What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything. What the fuck is wrong with you? Did you see her launch video? We covered it on this show. Kamala Harris's launch video. It was like, truth, unity, justice, democracy. These aren't just words. Well, actually, unless you're about to directly, specifically tie them to policies that you're going to implement, they are just words. That's exactly what they are. Unless you say, justice, that means getting everybody in the country healthcare and implementing a Medicare for all system. Unless you tied it directly to that, then yeah, those are just words. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're running a campaign from 1992. Stop it. And as she's running this campaign, CNN is actively trying to shape public opinion in her favor as they pretend like they're calling balls and strikes. Listen, if you're doing one of these segments and you say Biden is the front runner, you know what? Fair enough, because at least there's some polls that have him as the front runner. Now, the reality is when you dive into the methodology of those polls, oftentimes they oversample older Democrats, and they don't sample enough young people, and they don't sample enough independents. So it's misleading. Those polls are a little misleading, but hey, at least you have a poll, a data point in your favor if you pick Biden. If you pick Bernie, well, virtually every other poll has Bernie at number one. Makes perfect sense. But what they're doing is he's actively picking somebody who's not polling well because they're establishment approved, and then trying to shape public opinion to make people think, oh, okay, she's the leader and I'll support her because of that. And as he shapes opinion, he tries to pretend like, me? I'm just calling balls and strikes. I'm just an objective forecaster. No, you're not. You're an asshole with an establishment-approved opinion, and I have no idea how you have a job. Actually, I just answered my own question. You have a job because your opinion always happens to line up with the establishment as you pretend like it's objective.